Hi, Facebook. This is Tim Anderson. Today is Monday. We've had a pretty amazing evening last night in Fairfax County for the recall of Senator Saslaw. So I wanted to tell you that, I'm sorry, getting rid of these messages here, that we had a good 60 people show up on a very cold day in December in Fairfax County. That is a huge number. Almost all of them lived in Senator Saslaw's district. And in speaking to them, the messages that I got from all of them were that they were very disenfranchised up there, that the Republican Party had given up on them, that they're not even trying to compete up there, but that there are a lot of Republicans up there. I also learned that Senator Saslaw almost lost his primary. And in fact, when you total up all of the votes of the primary, more people voted against him than for him. And so even though he got 35,000 votes in this last election, that does not seem to reflect the general consensus of how most people up there feel about him. So he may not be as beloved as me from the outside looked. So I learned a lot about people out there on this. So I'm meeting with the Libertarian Party today. It's a big meeting. We're going to pass off the Senator Saslaw recall petition to them, and they're going to run with it from there. If you have not signed up with us, please do. There's an email link about 2 or 3 links down on my Facebook page. Look for the picture of the 35th District, and there's a link there. You can click on that to engage. All right, so I'm going to flip back into my lawyer mode now and talk about House Bill 67. Many of you have sent it to me. You have questions about it. You want my opinion. Let me tell you basically about 67. So House Bill 67 does really just a couple of things to the existing law. The law in Virginia is that there are penalties to government employees who go on strike. And one of those penalties is that they're generally barred by being able to get future employment. Now, what House Bill 67 does, now that's already the law in Virginia. That includes any employee. As it is written currently, it basically is just any public employment official. So that would include law enforcement officers already. House Bill 67 really just dials it back and just makes it for public safety officers. So I'm not 100% sure why that if you're a law enforcement officer and you're striking and you're not fulfilling your duties, that would be something that would already be prohibited under the Virginia Code. But why they're really just narrowing it down just to law enforcement and not other employees. I don't know how nefarious this one is because the law is already there that a public service employee could be barred from future public employment if they strike. The language does not really change much. There's a couple of words in the bill that change, but mostly it's just deleting the other public employees from the bill. So House Bill 67 for me does not rise to the level of anything major. Although I will say that it is interesting why they are just limiting it to the police. That is for your own devices. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that. Doesn't ring as a big issue to me. It just seems to be letting the rest of the state off when they strike and just keeping their focus on the police. Many of you have asked me to run for office, and let me just tell you, I'm not the guy. I'm a pretty good lawyer, and apparently now I'm a pretty good rallier of the people on the Second Amendment, but you're not going to want to vote for me, okay? Just because we agree on the Second Amendment does not mean I'm the guy that you would want as your elective representative. And to prove that, I have posted my positions on the 12 top hot boxes of hot box topics facing the United States. Now, you're going to see Sometimes I'm too conservative, sometimes I'm too liberal, sometimes I'm just too much in the middle. Nobody would really want to vote for me because you're going to find something in this list that you disagree with. So for all of those of you who have asked me and said I should run and all that, very complimentary, thank you. But really when it goes down to it, read the list. It's right up here in the Facebook comment. You'll see that I am definitely not the guy that the vast majority of you would want to vote for. But just if you want to keep on watching, this is just going to be kind of a political thing from here. You can cut it out. There's nothing more is going to be about guns, so you can stop right here if you want to watch. But my biggest concern with America is the national debt. I think we should have a balanced budget, constitutional amendment, and that we should have to pay back the public debt within 20 years. That, for me, is the biggest problem that I have. I also think the second biggest problem that we have is tribalism. Calling me a Republican, calling you a Democrat, not wanting to get along with each other. I think that is a huge problem, and I think the political parties have a lot to do with it. It just seems like every year one party takes over, and then the other party's entire job is just to obstruct them until they can take over, and then the other party does the same thing back to them, and nothing gets done. So I think it's just this Republican-Democrat thing is a huge problem. And because I don't like it, they'll never let me run on one of their platforms because I'm really not either one of them. I also don't think people pay enough taxes. I think a lot of people don't pay any taxes. And so I would be for abolishing the federal tax code. I'd also be for abolishing the corporate tax code. Charge taxes on goods that we purchase, like they do in Europe. You know, you go out and you buy a television, you pay a tax on that, and that's how we generate our tax base. Make corporations pay money on gross receipts rather than what's called net profit. So if Amazon makes $400 billion this year, they got to pay taxes on $400 billion. Maybe 10%, something like that. But they don't pay any taxes. That's crazy. I think college should be free. Okay, if you can't afford it. Now, if you can afford it, you should have to, but if you can't, it should be free. I think that the government should have to pay for that, and then you should have to work for the government and public service to pay your debt off for that to them. I think kids that were here illegally should be allowed to stay. If they were raised in this system and they think they're Americans, they should be allowed to stay. I think the border should also be hardened. I think that it should be harder for people to come into the country humanely. I'm not saying you should be shooting people, but I think there should be more border protection. But the people that are here, they should be allowed to stay. I think we over-criminalize our population. 2 million people are in prison right now. At least 500,000 of them are nonviolent offenders. They should be out of jail, working on roads, building bridges, doing something in the public service sector rather than just sitting in jail. I think the war on drugs is a complete and utter disgrace. We've jailed people rather than treat people. I think those people should be out. I think that there should be a private party health insurance program, but I also think that if you can't afford to buy into that, you should be allowed to buy into some kind of a government program like a Medicare for all kind of thing. I think it should be there for those people who can't afford it. I think welfare is the single biggest thing that we have done to disenfranchise people from society. I think that people who are able-bodied should have to work. We should be working on getting them out of welfare and letting them have productive lives, not just giving them checks. From cradle to grave, many people live on the government. So from the minute they're born, they're getting government help until the day they die. That's ridiculous. That's crazy. And that should be changed. The government has a huge mental health crisis. Everybody ignores it. They try to blame it on the gun people, but it's not the gun people. It's because there's mental health problems. I also don't believe all the gun laws are perfect. I think we can make gun laws better, but I also don't think it results in criminalizing people who lawfully own guns. I also think abortion is a fundamental right of a woman up to a time. So you should be allowed to do that if you are a woman. I don't like it. It's not for me, but I'm not going to tell somebody what they should do. But at a point in time, you shouldn't be able to go any further unless, of course, it's a health or safety issue. So there I am. That's why you'll never want to vote for me, because I'm all over the place, all right? Nobody is going to be there. So let me just be the lawyer here, and let's put this to bed. I'm going to be the guy who's going to be out there fighting for you Second Amendment people. We're going to meet with the Libertarians today, and I have some plans about some other people we're going to work on recall petitions for. Let me keep in that position, and we'll go from there. Facebook, thank you for everything. We will see you. I'll give you an announcement later today after I meet with the Libertarians of what we're going to do and what the plan is. We just got to get an action plan with these guys. So should be updating you probably around 8 o'clock tonight in that time period. All right, have a good day, Facebook.